Hello, this is James Nussbaumer, and thanks for tuning in or listening to me tonight. Once again, from Facebook, my friends John and Ella of Goose Creek, South Carolina. I recognize you tonight. Thanks for all your messages. John, your golf tips are very welcome. And from Dalton, Georgia, Mary Ann and Elvis, just like Elvis Presley. I call him. In fact, I send a message back to him every now and then and call him the king. But and then from the Napa Valley area, my good friend, which if anybody reads my third book after the first two that I'm going to announce here in a second. But anyways, John and Becky from the Napa Valley area. John, how about sending me a good bottle of wine from out there in the Napa Valley? That would be nice. Actually, John's name is spelled Jon. The only John I know spelled that way. But him and Becky have been very good friends of mine since my Florida days, and where we met at Landsbrook Golf Course in Palm Harbor, Florida. But these folks that have messaged me on Facebook want to know more about, how do we know, what are the thoughts about our body versus our mind beyond the body? I mean, how do we know if we're operating from our body or from our real self? And the only thing that I can say that is, what I learned from A Course in Miracles is that when we forgive, if we concentrate on forgiving, what we're actually doing is overlooking the errors that the body, which is the brain, is of the body, right? That the brain makes someone say things. We overlook that and go beyond that when someone offends you. And we look beyond that and we see them for who they really are, beyond those words that come just as something from the body. But there was a chapter in my book called Mastering, The Master of Everything, by the way. I'm sorry, The Master of Everything, my first book, A Story of Mankind in the World of Illusion We Call Life, and the sequel, Mastering Your Own Spiritual Freedom, which is just now out, August 1st, both by Ozark Mountain Publishing Company, a great publisher, and that I have a great relationship with. And I'm so thrilled with these books and a third, and that's going to be out by November 1st and possibly more after that, which I've got written material, but I see a home with Ozark Mountain Publishing Company, and they're just great. But anyways, there was a chapter in The Master of Everything early on in the book about seeing through the window in our mind, and you may have seen another video about that. But, looking beyond and letting go as you see through the window, the only way I can answer that, Becky and John, and is, and everyone else, numerous messages on Facebook. I can't really, I'm getting a lot of messages lately on Facebook, which I love. Keep them coming, please, because it keeps me going. It keeps me thinking, and it keeps my mind beyond my brain. When I say beyond, I mean beyond in a way that we cannot understand physically, but beyond, okay? So it keeps my mind working. And so please keep the messages coming. But everyone wants to know that. How do we know if we're operating from our mind or from our body's brain? How do we know? Well, the only thing I can say is from my experiences of the thoughts that I would consistently have of two of me, or we could say maybe two masters, or the good and bad sides, in me, the good and bad sides that we all have in us. Then I would come to realize that I was forced to choose at one point in my life between my body and the real me. But that came to me in an abrupt way while I was in prison, which is where I wrote both of these books, by the way. Of course, you know that if you've seen my other videos. And but this one especially here tells the story of where I finally had to decide on that. Or we could say that I had to finally decide on my own reality, the true reality. You know, there is no doubt about the light that touches me, the light that touches all of us. And now that I know that my body only goes along with me for the ride, at least for a while yet, you know, while I'm in this world, the body just goes along for the ride. So why not make it a joyous ride while we're here, right? A reflection of our inner self, a reflection of the mind beyond what this body is. Okay, but thanks to the window that you will read if you get my first book, The Master of Everything, thanks to the window, you know, the little opening in the side of the mind that's shut off a little bit, if we open the window shade and let the light in, thanks to the window being open, because I want it to be open, and later what I would learn from A Course in Miracles is that I'm able to perceive and acknowledge that I have everything I need within me. I'm realizing that I must usually perceive before knowing. My mind projects my bodily image, and my guilt and fear make it seem real, but it's really not. For the time being, guilt and fear remain with us in this world as separate illusions. And when I say for the time being, it's because time is all that we see. All of our physical perceptions are based on time, but we can progressively subdue time, the realm where our thinking side identifies with a body and its boundaries, who and what we think we are. We can learn this is the unreal or natural self we made. Isn't this what Jesus wanted us to understand when he said, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do"? We don't know our real self, and to forgive will allow us to just let go or to surrender. So what we did make of ourselves can be undone. For example, right now, as I'm speaking to you in my office here, my writing den where I get it all done, there's a train going on out this window in the background through the middle of the night as I'm making this video, oozing through town with its horn going as the engineer, you know, now the horn, you may have heard that maybe a minute ago as I was talking, but now all of a sudden it's the rattling of the rail cars just going through town. That sends me back to my childhood, you know, where I, you know, was at night thinking about how I was going to play great football the next day, or whatever kids think about in the summertime, you know, while they're, you know, or playing baseball or whatever it is, you know, whatever sport I was involved in. So it's a reflection. When I hear that train, I'm reflecting of my childhood. So what I'm trying to say is, when we reflect something, we're reflecting something from where? From our home? Where is our home? Well, let me explain a little bit further. I found that when I'm afraid of something, I'm only acknowledging its power to hurt me. We all believe in what we value. If I'm fearful, then I must be placing value in fear. Therefore, I must be valuing wrongly. This fearful habit of mind, it just destroys our chances for peace. And we must have peace within us before we can extend it. And that peace within us comes from that reflection of what the railroad cars going through town right now that I'm hearing rattling in the background mean to me. It's reflection. It's not the physicalness of the railroad cars. It's the reflection from my heart that it sends to me, or that I get from that, however you want to take that. Recognizing this, we can more clearly understand the Bible when it says, the peace of God passes understanding. The statement means that peace cannot be valued wrongly, nor can it be shaken by errors of any kind. You know, when we reflect from our inner self, from what we really are, even when we're around our loved ones and we're just jokingly and making comments and joking about this and that and laughing and having fun, when we're reflecting, and when we reflect, when we no longer feel vulnerable to attack. Isn't that right? When you're you're reflecting, you're joyful and you're reflecting from inside yourself, you don't feel vulnerable to anything. No, because you feel whole and 100%. So when we no longer feel vulnerable to attack, or separated or being rejected in a way, we can then lengthen the instance of that thought and that reflection, the reflections that we get, and bring on more reflections all the time. It's kind of like a no thinking stage, is the best I can say, when we're reflecting, where we reinterpret for our mind what it is that we truly want. The bottom line is that we all want peace, but we're in fear of how to achieve it. Even the murderer wants peace, but his own fears are so deeply rooted in his real self, so shallow, that he just cannot begin to see forgiveness in the world he is a part of. Forgiveness means to overlook or let go and let reflection come in and reflect from our inner self, and then look beyond the errors to the realm where the will of God exists. What is the will of God? It's your own true free will. It's that reflection that comes out of you. In other words, when you have overlooked someone's errors by looking beyond their body that made that error, then you have forgiven them. You have reflected yourself onto the situation as one with them. I know this might make sense to you, or may not make sense to you, is both. But that's where we come into where we have the two of us. There's two of me, one that understands and one don't. It's hard in a human body to explain. It's hard to understand. So it's hard. So the best thing we can do is just to reflect. And this is also how you must forgive yourself. By reflecting from what it is. Reflect what's in you outward and overlook your own errors and let them go and start over. You can start forgiving yourself right now as you go on and read both of my books. I hope you buy both of them. So start by forgiving yourself right now by overlooking your errors and your judgments of people and everything that you do, and by acknowledging the belief that you truly what you truly value is what you want to live by. I mean, what you truly value, which is your heart, isn't it? You don't truly value a physical structure. You might see a physical structure, but you value it because it's a reflection of your heart from within you, a reflection from in the heart of your mind. You're reflecting on that physical structure that makes you feel attached to it. And if you can hang on to that reflection as that being the attachment to that physical structure, then that is cool. That is great. And you have no guilt then and no fear. In other words, begin right now to start looking beyond your guilt and fears by overlooking them and looking on things only as a reflection from the heart of your mind. The initial step is to reinterpret how your mind sees the world, which you have made by following a pattern that others have set for you. Then you can turn around these habits of mind by living your own free will through reflection, which requires forgiveness or looking beyond the world's workings and the you that you made of yourself because of the demands that the world has placed on you. I know that's a little deep, and don't try to comprehend it all, but just keep reflecting from your heart, the heart of your mind. Look beyond it all and find out what you see, your vision, in other words, what you envision, if you will. Without forgiveness, you will remain in the dark, guilty and fearful, and will naturally see death, which none of us want to see. But the light with a capital L, as in divinity, the light that is within you, that reflection has a willingness to extend itself. This is the realm where there is no death. You may be asking, well, how then can I escape darkness and enter the real world? It's simple. What is the real world? It's your reflective state. It's what you reflect. So how do you live in the real world in a reflective state? It's this simple. By letting go of all that chains you and all that has you bound in shackles, in handcuffs and chains, all that chains you, and using your real vision to look through the cloud cover in your mind and go to the heart that's in your mind. Go down to the heart and start reflecting. What is real vision, you may ask? Well, my goal in The Master of Everything, a story of mankind in the world of illusion we call life, and its sequel now out, Mastering Your Own Spiritual Freedom, my goal in both of these books that are published by Ozark Mountain Publishing Company, my goal in these books is to help you discover that answer while I keep on discovering it for myself. Let's do it together. Read my books. That way, once you read these and you love them and you just pass them on to other people, then that gives me reasons to keep writing and pushing forward, extending myself. Thanks for listening to me. God bless.